Hey everybody, I'm Jeremy,
And I'm Spencer,
and we're the Movie Bros.
bringing you honest movie reviews that you can trust.
Today, we're reviewing the movie Tax Collector. Who is it directed by?
It was directed by David Ayer, starring Shia LaBeouf and Bobby Soto.
So the movie follows a couple gang members in the Los Angeles area who their main job is to collect tax money from sales of drugs and crime in the Los Angeles area.
Yeah, so they have their head honcho boss who operates things from jail named Wizard. He kind of gives out the commands, and they are the more or less the right-hand man that help him run his empire. They collect money from all the other little subsets of gangs throughout the LA area. And so their job pretty much just going around making sure that everyone's paying up their fair share.
Yeah, and enforce.
You heard of me? What have you heard?
I heard you're the devil.
I might be.
Enforcing that, and then in return, they're offering protection to ensure that these smaller gangs don't run into any problems.
Right. No one's gonna mess with you. You work for the Wizard. You're covered.
So, what did you think about the movie?
So, I mean, first and foremost, I gotta say, this is not my typical genre. I love any sort of movie, but I do not tend to watch a lot of movies that fall into the specifically like Latin American cartel gang ones. There's ones that I've wanted to watch, Sicario, a few other ones that deal with like usually border areas, but not my usual genre. I don't know about you.
I do like to watch gang culture-esque movies.
Yeah.
I loved some of the movies like Blood In, Blood Out. You know, there's Sicario. And I love those movies that really have a lot of thought put into educating the person who's watching it a little bit about the culture. This movie was, I think, tried to mix some of that into it.
I agree. I mean, I think one of the things is that, you know, regardless of how you feel personally about gang culture and the operations of gangs, they try to give you a little window that these are people, they're living their lives, and they do have their own morals and their own values. I think that's one of the things that I really enjoyed about this is that it really pushed forward one of the tropes that you see amongst many gang culture movies, which is family first. You know, the family is all important. I think especially in Latin American culture,
Absolutely.
that's something, gang or no gang, that's something that's extremely important. And they really helped hammer that home. And I think it really helped for me humanize the main character a bit more. Otherwise you could see a lot of this movie is just kind of senseless violence and like just stupid bravado and machery and
Yeah, if you haven't seen the trailers for this movie, but you're interested in watching it, this movie does have a lot of violence. So to kind of circle back, sometimes you want a little bit more character development in this movie.
True.
What I want to say is I felt like this movie tried too hard to do character development. I thought I would have loved to have seen less character development in this movie and more action.
Right.
I liked the third act of the movie. I liked the violence, the story at the end of the movie. I didn't like the first act.
Yeah, so I mean, with some of these movies, you have to decide as a director what direction you're going to take your movie in. And I think that they picked their spot. They were like, all right, we're going to develop these characters, and we're going to do what I call the final act blockbuster. So this is a build up through the first two acts. You might have like some little tidbits of action here and there, but really it's all set up. And then you come to a third act and it's just hit.
Yeah.
And that's what they went for. I don't know. The first act, I also was not the biggest fan of. You know, you're following around these two guys. It reminds me a lot of the movie End of Watch, except for it's the gang side instead of the police version. But you're following around these two guys, and like, you don't really care about them. There's nothing that really like drives you to care about them. They're just kind of two gangsters.
Well, and I think that's what the movie was trying to do in that first act. And this is the reason why I didn't like it, is because they spent too much time trying to give a backstory and trying to show the relationship that the two main characters have between each other, that they're willing to give their lives for each other, that they're they're trying to do their job the best that they can so they can provide for their families and have a good life. And at the same time, it just took too long.
Yeah.
And I would say it was kind of boring, the first act. I yawned
Yeah.
a few times and sighed some as I tried to struggle getting through the first act. What you guys don't realize is that we sacrifice our time to watch these movies, and they don't always meet our expectation of what we would like to see. And for this one, I really thought that it just took a long time to get me to that second act. And the second act, it did start to ramp up that action,
Yes.
the storyline, the plot. And then by the time you get to the third act, I really enjoyed the third act. I even liked the warm-up with the second act. I just wish that there was a little bit more second act in the first act.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I will give a little bit of credit to is that they did manage to build tension. So, like, this is an action movie. It's about gangs and drugs and money trading hands, so like obviously things are bound to blow up at some point. And there are a few scenes in the first act and like leading kind of into the second where they create tension, but they don't actually give you that kind of explosive action that you're looking for. I can appreciate that kind of build up as we approach the climax in the movie, but you're right, it just took a little too long to get there. Especially, it felt like the first 30 minutes could have been cut out of the movie and nothing would have really changed.
Yeah, it was, I don't want to give away anything, but I just felt like it was too personal, too family related, and not really, like you said, you could have cut the first 30 minutes out. You wouldn't have noticed anything different about the movie.
Right.
And I really liked the bad guy in the movie.
It was interesting. There is without giving away too much, we'll just say that there are scenes in the movie that definitely depict this very evil quality to him that I think has not been done in a little while. It takes maybe some mild horror elements along with, and mixes it with some like cultural components that like aren't part of mainstream culture. And really, it's a good bad guy.
Yeah, he was a good bad guy. I think they took a lot of liberty to create this bad guy.
Yes.
And I really enjoyed the bad guy. I actually would have loved a movie just about the bad guy.
That would have been cool.
Yeah.
I was speaking about the actor. I was segueing a little bit, but speaking about the actors themselves, I thought the performance of the main character was pretty good, pretty solid throughout, very consistent. I think he plays his role as kind of this lower level person who appreciates the good, but like doesn't necessarily like to do the bad. He actually kind of has a good heart.
And I think they really solidified that in the movie, right? He is a family man. The main character, which is the character's name is David in the movie, and he is, a tax collector. He collects money. He rolls with a guy who is all about violence, and that's part of their business. But he solves problems in real time in the field, and he's very thoughtful in the way that he goes about solving these problems. And I really like that about his character. I actually was very convinced, both with his performance and Shia LaBeouf's. I really liked Shia LaBeouf's performance in the movie. I would have liked to see more from him in the movie.
Yes.
And you
To no fault of his own.
Yeah. Well, and it's he's an actor in a film that was written and directed by somebody else, so it's his performance. But his performance in the movie, I thought, was really solid. I liked it a lot. I was really convinced that he is that character.
I agree. He, I think he would just define himself as a method actor. I think you definitely see that. I don't know if he has any sort of Latino or Hispanic background to him, but it's funny, you can buy into that he is part of this culture. You're right, he plays the character very well. I did like his performance a lot. I did wish I got to see more of him, but not really his choice in that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, he's so method, he gets this tattoo on his chest, which you don't even really see
I was just going to say that.
It's like all of that effort and time.
Yeah.
And you don't even get to see it in the movie, which I was really hoping, I wanted to see.
It seems like a miss from like a director side of things to have someone who has committed themselves in such an extreme way to have permanently altered their look, everyday look, and then not include that a little bit more in the movie. You do see it very briefly, but it's a little muddied, if you will.
Yes. Okay, so you guys heard it here. tax collector. Let's get down to it. Rate this movie. What do you got?
This is a tough one. So again, I came in, I knew nothing, no trailers, no synopsis for me on this one either. I vaguely knew what it was about. I will say that I appreciated some of the elements that we mentioned earlier. There were definitely some shortfalls. I'm gonna give this one a 6.5.
I'm going to give this movie a 6. I agree. I feel like the movie fell a little short, especially in that first act. It did start to ramp up in Act 2 and 3, and I did like it from there. I did, at some points, feel like the movie was a little amateur, and I would have liked to have seen more action and less character development in the movie. I did think the movie looked good. I did notice something that we talk about periodically that I didn't like in the movie, and that was the score.
Interesting.
The score threw me off a bunch. Because sometimes it was too much,
Yes.
and it wasn't at the right time.
Yes.
So,
I felt similarly about the score. There were moments where I did feel amped up.
yes.
And so I feel like they had some hits there. But yes, there were times where like the music did not match the tone of what was going on in the scene
Yeah.
at the time. Am I
Yeah.
excited?
Am I somber?
Yeah.
What's happening?
Yeah.
What's the music telling me? So I give it a 6. Spencer gives it a 6.5. You guys decide. I thought it was a good movie, worth watching. Maybe
I would wait for this one to come
Yeah.
out into your streaming
see it
service.
for free.
No need to really pay the money for this one. Your money's probably better spent elsewhere right now. But overall, a good one to watch if you enjoy this kind of genre of violence and kind of gang culture, especially if you enjoy ones that are a little bit more based on the Latino side of things as opposed to like some of the more African American ones a la End of Watch.
All right. You guys heard it here on the Movie Bros. Make sure you check it out. While you have a second, make sure you hit the subscribe button. It really helps us out with the YouTube algorithm. What do you got for them?
Yeah, appreciate it very much, guys. We'll see you for the next one.
Movie Bros out.